As the new year has passed, it is important to remember the good things in life. I got some new shoes, I'm working hard on the Code Geass video, and I even managed to get the huzz. Beyond everything that has been happening in the last 3 months, I think we should do our best to remember. Remember where we came from. Remember who we were with. But above all, remember how to read. Now, I've been questioning myself on how to read for the longest. I was even thinking of buying this book. So while I question myself on how to read, let me question you guys on how to read. What does this panel mean? Okay, well, save that thought for a couple minutes. In Deku Opioid fashion, it is time to talk about Attack on Titan. It's the new year, but the same old me. Now, in the same way Daigo Knight can talk about the same plot holes over and over, I think I could as well. Today's video is a bit different than the average plot hole or whatever. Today we're discussing why did Eren do the rumbling? Obviously, you would think there isn't one simple clear-cut answer, but I think there is, or at least was an answer. This video is not meant for real dialogue. This is a dictatorship where everything I say is objectively true and not meant for debate. If you have a problem with that, then 1v1 me on Spider-Man, and I promise I'll probably pull your spine out your back. In normal fashion, whenever talking about writing, we have to break down writing. Comparative mythology is real and necessary for taking a look at what works versus what doesn't. Why do certain anime characters like Lelouch have endless well-received reception while the exact opposite exists for Hody Jones? This is because certain elements of writing will be objective no matter what. There was this phrase I coined a couple years back but kind of lost it on reevaluation. Writing is objective, the way you view it isn't. With that being considered, the framework and structure behind making a well-written character is pretty bland. I believe someone can easily verify it. Characters are best written when they have established characteristics. Look at Avatar for majority of the stuff. Aang, immediately coming out the iceberg, goes to ask about penguin sledding. This tells us his relaxed disposition with wanting to have fun. Aang's arc is obviously accepting more responsibility and letting go of this childish behavior. Other characters, however, let their situation speak for them. Mandatory yearly psychopaths mention both of the main characters let the world in conflict paint their characters. Basically, the concept of good character writing starts and ends with the audience understanding how the character starts and where the character ends. So it all starts with the audience being able to understand the character. Even the most complex character still needs to be understood in order for any of this good writing, quote unquote, to make sense. Here's the catch though, because characters are meant to be understood, whenever you have vastly different interpretations of a character, this means the writer did not do a good job of establishing a certain through line to interpret the character. There are obviously various exceptions like Johan again, but generally there is a connecting principle between every idea a story establishes. If I ask you why Robin left the Straw Hats in Water 7, you should be able to give me a clear answer. If person A tells me because she was jealous of Usopp, while person B says she didn't like them anymore, this is just bad writing, as if there was a clear answer, everyone just be coming to it. With all this considered, ask yourself why Eren did the rumbling. Alright, so let's split this up into two different sections, pre-139 and post-139. So before 139, I feel like it's pretty simple. It's to end the cycle of hatred and liberate his people. He obviously isn't an altruist while doing this though. He slaughters children in Marley and lets a ton of his people get turned into titans just to get to Zeke. When you look at Eren's lines in the pre-time skip, he obviously wants to fight against the enemy. He initially wanted to be viewed as a hero, but that was short-lived. Eren saw his father's memories and came to the conclusion how the world worked. After this, he lived in Marley and experienced it firsthand. Eren understands the world itself and this fuels his core motivation. Eren did the declaration of war in order to buy time to hopefully think of some other solution. A reminder, it is not if other nations invade, it is when will other nations invade. Paradis is rich in resources and is a considerably weak target. Almost 20 years before the main story started, it was already mentioned that Marley one day would come and take these resources. Not only that, who's to say only Marley would target them? What if the Eastern Allied forces went after Paradis? I'm aware no nations went after Paradis because of Carl Fritz's warning, but Marley went after Paradis even after knowing Eren used the founder before and Zeke is with them. Basically, militaries doing silly things isn't uncommon. So off rip, Eren knows the island will be targeted for years to come. On top of this, not only are they outnumbered, they're significantly outgunned. Better yet, the only defense they had for the island, they removed themselves. Paradis at this point has no defense, no strategy, no counterplay. There's nothing outside of politics stopping any nation from getting within range of Paradis and just start shooting bombs. If they could take out Reiner, I wonder what they're gonna do to a flock. All of this comes together to say that a war will happen no matter what. Nobody will talk to Eldians as well. The world already thinks it's pointless to discuss the rights of Eldians. Eren saw himself do the rumbling and tried his hardest for 4 years to avoid that future. When the rumbling starts, please look at what John says. What the people on the other side of the sea feared the most came true, and it's because they labeled us as devils and tried to kill us all. Do we stop Eren? He rejected Zeke in his plan to castrate us all, and he rejected sacrificing Astoria. In other words, in order to protect us, he sacrificed all of humanity beyond the walls. This right here is the writer confirming that Eren rejected the only 2 other plans that were presented. You know why he rejected them? Because Eren isn't a child burdening cuck. Guess what though? We get even more flavor from 131. This is the most contentious chapter in AOT history, but it's pretty simple to me. Again, this chapter literally opens up with Eren saying he will destroy the entire world and that the future is already set. He says because the future is already set, it means Paradis cannot find another way to survive. Let me repeat that. Because the future is set where he destroys the world, it means Paradis did not find another way to survive. Some stuff happens and then Eren finds Ramsey and apologizes. Eren says he's doing the rumbling to save the island. This makes sense because he literally just said that. Admittedly, Eren says there's something more than just saving the island. He says the world he saw literally was nothing like the one he dreamed of. Nothing like the world I seen in Armin's book. He says he was disappointed when he learned humanity existed outside the walls, and as a result, he wished for it to be wiped away. I know a lot of people just got their dick hard when they heard that, but pay attention to what is said afterward. They were always just there, wherever I looked from the day I was born. Those miserable walls. This is a story. Things don't exist in complete isolation. Look at what this means altogether. Eren says he will destroy the world for the island, but the main thing that drives him to do it is the state of the outside world. There was no freedom outside the walls like he imagined. In actuality, there is infinitely more cruelty, hatred, and bigotry in the outside world. Eren couldn't stand feeling like a caged animal from the outside world, hated the walls for making him feel like livestock, and now he hates the outside world for also making him feel like livestock. This is the only way to properly interpret these lines of dialogue. This is how you make it congruent with past characterization and make it narratively fitting into the ideas of being pushed to look for freedom. If you interpret these lines as Eren wanted to kill humanity because they weren't in Armin's book, you would simply lose the argument. Why? Because there's no basis, no through line, no real evidence for this to mesh with the previously established story. If I have evidence that supports my stance that comes from chapter 1 and on, and you have nothing except for vague reaches to fit us new idea, which do you think is stronger? Moving on, I think why Eren did the rumbling is pretty simple. Eren wanted to protect the island and the home he grew up on. Eren cared about random street thug Thomas enough to literally crash out about. By protecting the island, he simultaneously wanted to end the cycle of hatred. This would confirm that he could give his friends long lives. Finally, this is all underpinned by his core motivation to free himself from the walls that caged him. All these motivations collide for him to destroy the world. It's pretty interesting that there are several layers all well developed that are fueling these motivations. It would be a shame if the final chapter of the series took each and every layer and dipped it into melting crocks of shit. 139 is infamously objectively terrible. Eren opens up saying that he started the rumbling and pushed them away in order to make Armin and co into heroes of humanity. This is objectively false because he states otherwise in multiple different parts of the story. There would be no reason to lie to Astoria and Flock and tell Ramsey if this was the case. Eren says he moved forward all for Mikas's choice. He then says everything that's happened, like the Jaeger's war, killing 8%, was a feature he saw in the medal ceremony. He didn't know his friends would even survive. Wow. Eren then says he killed his own mom. Eren then acts like an actual idiot, but that's probably because he's being mind controlled. Eren says he doesn't want to die, but he has to because he could probably never be forgiven and he has killed so many people. Eren says even if he didn't know that the gang would stop him, he would have still flattened the world. Guys, this right here is the writer shitting all over the page. Eren is not protecting the island by doing what he did in 139. In fact, it's destroying it. John and every other Jaegerist knows that stopping the rumbling means the island will be destroyed. Eren has only perpetuated the cycle of hatred by stirring up everyone more than Willie Typer's speech. Eren did not make sure his friends lived long lives because they all could have been killed immediately from Mueller. If Ichiyama didn't have the pen in his hands, they could have been killed by the Jaegerists later, and a lot of his friends didn't even make it to begin with. Above all, Eren didn't achieve any inkling of freedom. But let's ask why. Why did Eren not achieve freedom? this is magically because Eren was being mind controlled the entire time. Eren was following a path set by Ymir, only for her to mess with his head, kill his own mom, and sacrifice himself so she could get her under the table hand job. This is why it's hard to read into Eren's motives, because chapter 139 twists and contorts them so badly, trying to make sense of it turns into a Sisyphean task. Eren still wanted to destroy the world as it was partially in his nature, but instead of addressing the psyche behind that, Isayama has Eren say, "I don't know why." This moment is unfortunately in character for him to say, but it's not in character for him to ever answer. Eren has never answered Onera's questions like that before, so this tells me Isayama wanted to salvage Eren or had a plan for him, he just couldn't make it work. Fuck this chapter, fuck Eren, and fuck Isayama. Hey guys, second part of the video, I went into AOR in order to ask this question and kind of get some responses. I got too many comments for me to like write about it in like a Word doc and then like make an analytical response to all of them, like, and then speak it. And I got too many comments, so we're gonna go about this like in a more artificial way. I'm gonna say here, as the title says, I want to know why Eren did the rumbling. AOT the series a lot of interpretation. I want to hear all of them. There are no wrong answers. I believe he did it for freedom and the Titan curse, but maybe that's too simple. Now, me going inside the subreddit, I was being like docile. I was being as friendly, as innocent as like a default back in 2018. That's what I was trying to like move as, you know? But that quickly stopped. Like that, I couldn't do it anymore. This, look at, it's a locked post. New comments can't be posted. You're currently banned from this community and can't post on comments. Sorry, this post has been removed. And they removed it for literally no reason, by the way. These have to be the softest pussy ass niggas I've ever heard in my entire life. This is the internet, and apparently any type of discussion that gets 1% toxic, 1% more combative, apparently that's, you can't go for that. So this interesting person said he didn't start the rumbling because of the Titan curse, because he didn't know what would happen when he started it. That doesn't make any sense right there. He didn't know what would happen. He didn't know what would happen when he started it. I'm gonna throw that shit out the fucking window. You don't make any sense when you say that. Eren did not see the full future until he gained the power of the founder after the rumbling had already began. So this is like the most popular headcanon either, right? And if you've watched the big AOT video, you would know that I concede that this is correct. This is, to be objectively the case, correct because of what the founder's powers end up being. The problem is, if you know how to argue, if you know how to debate, if you know how to stand your ground, you can't like push that forward, because guess what? If Eren got the full future after, if he got the full future after the rumbling started, then in chapter 130, why does he say this? Better yet, why do chapters 130 and 131 even exist? They show us his original motivations. It's either 1, he didn't gain any new future memories, which just makes plot holes galore, or 2, he did gain future memories, but the writer didn't think of it until he wanted him to gain future memories, so the writer is just lying to you, leading you to a certain outcome. Simple as that. He became a slave to the freedom he imagined reading Armin's book as a child, consequence of his nature and the childhood trauma of experienced life on Paradise for 15 years before he found his dad's book. As Kenny said, everyone is drunk on something. Geopolitical considerations mattered very little to him apart from being a hindrance to the rumbling, or as lies he would tell himself in order to justify his actions. Cares for his friends, but his motivation is to more avoid killing or harming his friends so that they may live long lives than to have them also be killed as he wiped community and etc. Okay. This is a lot of like modern Attack on Titan nonsense. There was no freedom. The book just showed him how unfree he was. Like that's the problem with this guy and what we see here with this other dude. Like, the uninhabited world that Armin's book did one thing, right? And we're gonna show it up. We're gonna show him right now. We're gonna do it right now. Look at what he says. I realized that I had been living in a bird cage all that time, and those freakish things had taken my freedom. The world was so big and they forced me into a tiny cage. So when you read that, how the fuck could you ever come to the conclusion that this nigga's talking about some vague nonsense? How? You can't. It's literally impossible. It's literally impossible. He says, that's when I knew for the first time I wasn't free. Of course, he says this after the whole eye stuff, but that doesn't matter. That literally doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. We can talk about that later, and a comment actually kind of addresses this in an interesting way that we'll get into, but the point is, right now that he says he's been living in a bird cage, that it was things he should have been able to see because he was born into the world, but the Titans took that away. Meaning, what does that mean? Put that all together. The book represented freedom. It showed him how he was unfree, that the outside world was a big place, but the walls took it away from him. And guess what? Not only the walls, the Titans took it away from him. So it's not it's not like the blank plane in Armin's book that didn't matter. Is Eren talking about the blank plane that existed here? Is he talking about the blank plane, the literal events that existed here? He's not talking about any landmark or at all. He's saying the world was bigger than this cage. And guess what? Even if you want to go into the whole eye stuff, which is pretty valid for the most part, even when you go into this eye stuff, the eye stuff doesn't even bring up the fact that it's not a blank plane. This whole blank plane stuff is retarded. I'm not even gonna get into like this other stuff like everyone is drunk on something. That's fucking nonsense, bro. Kenny is not a valid source. And I don't know any lies Eren tells himself or justifies to himself. I don't know any of them, but whatever. I even asked him over here, like, I heard about this before, bro. I'm a little confused with this Armin book thing. And look at my dumbass, bro. I say, like, what about Armin's book gave him the idea of freedom, and how does that relate to the rumbling? I'm sure the book didn't have pictures of the Titan skyscrapers walking around, right? LOL. Like, I'm a fucking troll, bro. Notice how this cocksucker didn't even like answer. This cocksucker didn't answer. He just sent me a thing for 131, right? But I already explained what 131 means. If you take 131 literally, that means you're not reading. In order to get what he just got, you have to take 131 extremely literally. You have to go, oh shit, he was disappointed in humanity surviving, and it's because it was nothing like the world he's seen in Armin's book. Because humanity wasn't in Armin's book. You're dumb. Like, do you understand how stupid that is? Do you understand how stupid that is? Do you understand if I was a writer, I'm making the main character commit mass genocide because he saw a book when he was 6 years old that didn't include humans? You're a fucking idiot, because that's not how anyone writes any story ever. The main character is just fucking crazy, therefore he's gonna destroy the entire world. That's a super villain, bro. That's a Disney Channel cartoon super villain. Like, oh my god. Eren did the rumbling to attain freedom for himself. What is freedom in Eren? Well, freedom means attaining the same look in his eyes that Armin possessed, in which Eren lacked. This look is existential fulfillment, the ability to create your own meaning internally in a world devoid of it. Eren envied Armin's freedom and wanted to possess it for himself. He considered life inside the walls to be hell, as no opportunity to implement his curiosity. There's only a monotony that drove him to boredom. Eren finds his peace boring, as no excitement with the life of okay. Yeah, he's getting a little beside himself. But if you read this entire thing, it's not entirely wrong, and I would definitely give a lot more validity to it. I partially agree that it's like the same eye stuff. Like, it's the eye stuff, that's pretty consistent, that makes sense, etc. I disagree though, because the problem with it writing wise, which we have to always bounce back to, we can like it, we can agree, we can disagree, whatever. The writing problem is that, generally speaking, when you have a character have one type of philosophy, interpretation, etc., and another character has another interpretation, other philosophy, etc., there's supposed to be conflict there. That's what writing is all about, right? The problem is Armin had a more mental freedom, and a lot of people understand that Armin was more mentally free. Eren was more physically focused on freedom. He was focused on physical freedom. When you look at the sea, Armin is happy that he can see the sea. Eren isn't. On the other side of the walls is the ocean. On the other side of the ocean is freedom. That's what I always believed, but I was wrong. It's enemies that are on the other side of this ocean. It's exactly as I saw my old man's memories. Those enemies on the other side of here, if we kill them all, does not mean we'll be free. Armin can do that and feel fulfillment and etc., but simultaneously, Armin is a bum. Armin is lagging. When it came to actually saving Paradis, Armin had no fucking idea what to do. So you have this perk of being mentally free, but you're also the slowest dude in gym class that doesn't have a single answer on how to do anything. So good for you. Clap it up. Good job, Armin. You're a fucking bum. I'm glad you're able to be mentally free. On the other side, Eren can't be mentally free, but he's the one being the most proactive in saving the island in every single step of the way. Historia, the whole plan, 50-year plan, fuck no. The euthanasia plan, maybe. Psych, nigga, genocide. So Eren, while not being able to be mentally free, is the most proactive and the only person actively committed to saving the island and solving the conflict. So there's perks and there's negatives and there's ups and peaks and valleys and whatever. The point is, one character should not be objectively right and the other character be objectively wrong and try to be like another character, especially since these two characters are main characters. They're supposed to be opposed. They're supposed to be opposed. It's supposed to be nuanced. It's supposed to be like an actual real conflict here. So that's my problem with this whole thing. The fact that they don't actually say it, but they say that they don't actually explicitly say it, but they're pretty much all but state like the reflection of what freedom is and etc. They just imply that. When number one, Armin is a bum. Number two, physical freedom and mental freedom are the same thing. Number three, the whole I thing was just Armin. It was Eren being envious of Armin. It wasn't any deeper, like have the blink plane that he wanted. Like no. Eren did the rumbling for simple reasons, but unfortunately many people do not know how to read, and as a result they make up the most headcanonous reasons and run with it until they get tired. Like I said though, if multiple people are coming to the most drastic conclusions like freedom, Armin's book, the Titan curse, or for the look in Armin's eyes, it means the writer was sucking dick instead of writing the story. It's a shame, but true. Hopefully I don't make too many more Attack on Titan videos this year, even though I'm sure I can't stop myself from making one or two. After all, we still got 5 more years of this.